Thank you. Good evening. I'm Councillor Sandra Natchable, Chairman of Housing, Health and Environment Policy Advisory Committee, and I'm pleased to welcome you to this meeting of the committee. The meeting will be broadcast live and recorded for playback on the Council's YouTube channel. Will anyone else be recording the proceedings? Okay. I ask so that people at the meeting will know if this will be happening. If the fire alarm sounds during the meeting, please remain seated and a member of the Democratic Services team will assess the situation and give further instructions on the evacuation of the building if necessary. Item 1, apologies. There are no, oh, sorry, Councillor Rose.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I'd like to apologise for missing 2 meetings. The explanation, I'd covered one with a colleague and didn't realise that the last one was the 30th. I was away. So I'd like to apologise for me missing those 2 meetings.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Rose. Thank you. So, Councillor Eagle.
Yeah, apologies for Councillor Jeffrey.
Thank you. And can any substitutes please state their attendance?
We substitute in for Councillor Jeffrey.
Thank you very much. Thanks. Item 3, urgent items. There are no urgent items. Item 4, there are no visiting members. Item 5, are there any disclosures by members or officers? No, thank you. Any disclosures of lobbying? Thank you. Item 7, I move that all items be taken in public unless any member of the committee wishes to refer specifically to the information contained within the exempt appendix to item 13, which is the tender cost for the demolition contract, in which case the committee will need to enter into closed session due to the likely disclosure of exempt information. Is this agreed? Thank you. Item 8, minutes of the meeting held on 30th of January 24, pages 1 to 3. Do any members have any comments on the accuracy of the minutes? No, thank you. I move that the minutes of the meeting held on 30th of January be approved as a correct record and signed. Is that agreed? Thank you. Item 9, forward plan relating to the committee's terms of reference found on pages 4 to 8. Are there any comments on the forward plan, or do Cabinet members wish to make any comments? No? Okay, thank you. I move that the forward plan be noted. Is that agreed? Thank you. Item 10, draft key performance indicators. To be introduced by, in the absence of Councillor Parfitt-Reid, Councillor Garson.
Good evening, members of the committee. It is our usual process to send through the annual recommended list of KPIs. However, this year this list has grown in number fairly significantly. The government have set up Ofloc, the Office of Local Government, in 2023, as you may be aware, and they have developed an online monitoring tool for people to compare local government performance across a number of metrics. The list of reporting metrics is set to grow over the next 18 months, and therefore we have increased our KPIs to ensure transparency across the council, and that we are monitoring what Ofloc are also monitoring. We have also added to the list housing regulatory indicators to ensure that the PAC has good oversight in our housing accommodation team, reporting what is statutorily required of us as a housing provider. The report also explains changes to the reporting arrangements with the introduction and development of an online reporting dashboard, which will be updated monthly, giving frequency of data, and the introduction of a half-yearly performance report and an annual performance statement, which will provide greater depth of detail. If you have a look at the pages 17 onwards in your papers, where you see in the right column where it says new, these are the new indicators, but certainly half, if not more, indicators are current ones, which we are already keeping. And so therefore our local authority is once again pretty much in step with the latest legislation and government requirement, and we're pretty much set up for what is required from Oflag to us. An interesting item which I may just draw your attention to, because it refers to my own department, is the percentage of fly tips cleared, assessed, fixed penalty notices issued. You know that we are very, very proud of our waste crime team, which we set up last year in the last 8 months. So these will be the figures which will hopefully see us vindicated in our efforts.
Thank you, Councillor Garton. Do any officers have anything to add to that, or Councillor Parfitt-Reid, would you want to add to anything Councillor Garton has said? Sorry, Councillor Springett.
Thank you. I was just going to say I'm very happy with this, and I'm delighted to see that we're going to have online dashboards. I think that's excellent. The more we can do at home and just have a little quick nosy around. I had a look at the enforcement dashboard this afternoon just to keep tabs on things, and I think that's absolutely excellent. So I'm very happy with this report. I'm happy to pose as per the papers unless anybody else wants to comment otherwise. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Springett. Anyone else like to add anything at this point? Councillor Jean.
Just to say, I'm happy to second it. And Councillor Garton referred to the fly tipping. I think it's always been on everyone's agenda that the fly tipping is something that we all feel very, very strongly about. So if the indicators are saying that we're doing better than we did before, then I say good, well done. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I take that as a proposal from Councillor Springett, seconded by Councillor Joy? Is everyone in agreement? Thank you. Item 11, third quarter financial update and performance monitoring report, found on pages 20 to 42, to be introduced by Councillor Parfitt-Reid. Also, Councillor Garton, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Yes, the Policy Advisory Committee includes budget and performance monitoring within its remit. This report sets out the financial and performance position for the third quarter of 2023-24. Let me quickly summarize what you can see on the paper. We are projecting an overspend against the budget of 606,000 for the year for the services covered by this committee. A breakdown by cabinet member is given on pages 30 to 31. The main reason for the overall projected overspend is an overspend of £990,000 on the cost of providing temporary accommodation. This figure has increased from last year, because although numbers in temporary accommodation are relatively stable, it has become necessary to make an allowance for the non-recovery of rent. Although this committee is overspent, they are projected by the underspends from other committees, leaving a net overspend of £239,000 for the council as a whole. As far as the capital is concerned, 14.6 million of the projected capital spend for the year is projected to slip to 24-25. You will see that at page 34. The largest items within this are 3.9 million for public rental scheme housing. A projected site acquisition is not expected to take full place until next year. That is the reason. And 3.4 million for the 1,000 affordable homes. There has been some slippage in the program. 5.9 million for the purchase of street properties for temporary accommodation. However, there are about 3 million worth of agreed offers in the pipeline where the completion will take place after the year end. The two red indicators, the number of affordable homes delivered across the borough, that is largely outside the council's control. and the percentage of household waste sent for reuse, recycling and composting. This is partially caused by seasonal factors such as the low volume of garden waste, but there's also an issue where KCC's data currently does not make much sense to our officers, and we're actually querying the figures with KCC at the moment. The UK Shared Prosperity Fund, Appendix 3, provides an update on the progress there.
Thank you, Councillor Garton. Would any officers like to speak on this? No? Are we all agreed that the recommendations laid out? Anyone want to add? No. Yeah. No.
I'm happy to propose as per the papers. I have no comments to make on this. It's all fairly straightforward. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. We all agreed? Thank you very much. Thank you. Oh, sorry, I can't hear anything. Terrible. Oh, sorry, yes. Edward. Sorry, Councillor Hastie and Councillor Parfitt-Reid. Are there any disclosures by members or officers? No. And are there any disclosures of lobbying? No. Thank you very much. Thank you. Moving on to item 11. 12, sorry. Yeah. 12. It's moving too fast. Item 12, homelessness and rough sleeping strategy 24 to 29, to be found on pages 43 to 98, to be introduced by Councillor Garton again, or Councillor Parfitt-Reid. I knew I'd get it wrong. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Apologies that I was slightly late. I was on the slowest train coming back from London, so it was a bit of a rush to get here. Homelessness and rough sleeping strategy. Since 2002, local authorities have been required to publish a homelessness strategy outlining their intentions and visions for supporting those who face homelessness. In 2018, the government published their National Rough Sleeping Strategy, which obligated local authorities to include a special focus on rough sleeping, and this is our second combined homeless and rough sleeping strategy. Maidstone last completed a strategy straddling 2019 to 24. This was created before some major world events, including the pandemic, Ukraine and Afghanistan, and of course the cost of living crisis. However, we still managed to succeed in the action plan, and the new strategy is looking to build on these. Over the preceding 5 years, the number of people approaching for advice, support and guidance has significantly increased. From 2018 to 2023-24, it's an uptick of around 1,000 people approaching the council. But the actual number of applications made has remained reasonably static. In fact, it has fallen slightly. There are three main reasons why people approach for homelessness support, which have been fairly static for the past 5 years. Victims of domestic abuse, friends and family no willing or able to accommodate, and end of private rented sector tenancies. Over the months of September to December 23, we undertook a consultation for the new strategy. This involved online consultations, staff meetings, senior colleague meetings, and stakeholders. The priorities for the previous strategy, 2019 to 2024, were agreed to still be relevant and would be continued throughout the new strategy. These are 1, prevention, 2, accommodation, 3, support for vulnerable groups, and 4, alleviation of rough sleeping. Our motivation has always been to prevent homelessness, as this is the best outcome for the households, causing less stress and anxiety, and reduce the financial burden for the council in temporary accommodation costs. Other headlines will include: we will expand our predictive analysis model to create a broader product with the ability to capture a wider data set, and thus having a greater reach for preventing homelessness and the need to access temporary accommodation. We will explore incentives for preventing homelessness, including friends and family evictions via a financial remuneration or other mechanism, reviewing under and over occupancy and align the discretionary housing payment system with the housing teams. We will continue to grow our own portfolio of accommodation, including temporary, private and affordable and social rented accommodation. And that obviously feeds into our 1,000 affordable homes. Also the purchase of properties within the borough, which is ongoing on a weekly basis. I will get information or details of properties that we're looking to purchase. Review our supporting housing provision, ensuring this meets the need for housing those who are most in need and vulnerable within the community, including a domestic abuse specific supported scheme. A modern view on high density housing such as micro apartments or pod type accommodation for younger single people struggling to access the housing market, to continue offering a dynamic and responsive support service to the homeless and rest sleepers. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you, Councillor Parfitt. Would any officers or councillors like to add to that? Councillor Cadgan.
Just a minor question: that does the strategy exclude any?
My apologies.
Does the strategy exclude any group of people or any particular national, i.e. EU? Does the homelessness strategy include EU national or not? Do you want me to repeat again?
Yes.
Yeah. Does the strategy exclude any particular group of people or any national, i.e. EU?
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Councillor Cadgan. It's not the strategy that excludes particular groups, it's the legislation. So the legislation is framed in such a way that it does describe certain persons who are not eligible for assistance. Now, that might include somebody that's been granted entry into the country because they're sponsored to be here, such as a student from overseas. It also excludes people that I hear termed as illegal immigrants, so we won't be able to provide housing to those persons with those characteristics. So yes, there are certain groups that are excluded. I think you can roundly describe it as people who have no recourse to public funds, because that includes public housing. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Littlemore. Does that answer your question, Councillor Cadgan? Thank you. Councillor Springett.
When I read this report, I thought, blimey, that's a good response to a consultation. 596%. It's on page 47, but it was section 2.5 that says that 96% of the respondents to the consultation felt the previous priorities created were still relevant for the new strategy. So I think I'd just like to comment that that was a good response to a consultation, and obviously those that have read it are content with the new strategy being a good follow-on from the previous one. But that, when I first read it, I thought that's quite impressive. But no, I'm quite pleased with that. Thank you.
Thank you. If no one else has anything to add to that, can I ask for a proposer and a seconder to the draft homelessness and rough street sleeping strategy? Could I ask for a proposer?
I'll propose it, because I think without it, we're not going to be moving forward.
So thank you, Councillor Joy. And a seconder. Thank you, Councillor Hastie. Thank you. Councillor Rose, did you want to add to that?
Yeah, sorry, racing on ahead. Councillor Cadgan has raised one point that I was going to raise, but first of all, I'd like to thank all involved in this very good report that was very informative and I think extremely helpful in understanding the graphs and the statistics, and I think I'd like to congratulate Maidstone Borough and the success they've had, and talking about I'm sure all are hopeful to success in breaking the cycle of homelessness 24 and 29, as contained in the wide-ranging strategy, which contains the aims to go on to 2045. I did have a concern that Councillor Coker raised, and I was thinking more about on page 54 and 56, which is item 3.2, which talks about special reasons for eligibility. And I was thinking rather of Ukraine and possibly Afghan, those people that have helped British forces, and hoping that they will be considered eligible within special reasons. I'm also concerned as to matters which might be termed intentionally in regards to tenants of private owned accommodation when landlords do not keep the accommodation in accepted repair. My concern is tenants who request acceptable repairs from their landlord but are threatened with no fault evictions because of the requests for the repairs to be carried out. I was happy to see mentioned the Housing Standards Team on page 12 and 14 of the strategy of 25-29. They are there to ensure decent housing standards. However, I'm concerned that Maidstone Borough have the powers to facilitate these requests for repairs in these circumstances, or as the report suggests, with the kind of eviction notices going to seek help possible accommodation from Maidstone Borough cases. This tends to lead me to thinking that landlords of private accommodation can do just what they want, and if anyone complains, then a fault eviction can be put in place, and then we have to pick up the pieces in this case. And that is something I think is a concern, although I am very happy that there are a standards team to do this work. And ending again by saying that I was extremely impressed by the report, which goes, as I say, goes on to 2045, and wish all involved success. If we can do at least a good part of this, I think we'll be doing well. So thank you very much for this report.
Thank you, Councillor Rose. Yes, I think the housing team absolutely deserve credit where credit is due in tackling homeless in the borough. I've been up to London today, and I don't go up as much as I used to, and I was quite shocked at the massive increase in people on the streets in Covent Garden especially. And my friend who I met today was actually telling me about how when she was coming home on the tube regularly now, there are people on all the seats in sleeping bags going round on the tube, sleeping. So I think everything that we are doing is we're doing a good job. I mean, obviously you don't rest on your laurels, you always seek to do better. In terms of landlords, I do feel that the housing team do give them a little bit of a run for their money if my inbox is anything to go by, and I have landlords complaining that they want their properties back and your council has advised my tenant this. So I think it is about striking a balance, because at the end of the day it is somebody's property, and if they want it, it's not necessarily for us to say that they can't take it back and sell it or whatever it is they want to do it. So there is a fine balance to be had there in terms of supporting somebody's right to their own property and obviously supporting the tenants. And I feel confident because I do sometimes take these cases to John and say this is a situation, and he often gives me good advice as to why the advice has been given to the tenant. from the council, and so I can then go back to landlords. But of course, there will always, I'm sure, situations that fall through the net. But I think the important thing is when tenants do reach out to us, they get the best advice possible, and I'm satisfied that we are doing a good job there.
Thank you. Did you want to add to that at all?
If I may, Chair,
Yeah.
just to give some reassurance to members on that issue. So when we are approached for advice from somebody who's been served with a no-fault eviction, the officers will look behind the reasons for the service of that notice. There is legislation that was introduced around retaliatory evictions in the sort of situation that you described. So as part of that investigation, if it was found that the person was trying to obtain that no-fault eviction because they didn't want to carry out a repair, we will intervene to prevent that eviction from taking place. So fortunately, I would say that it rarely happens in most, and on the whole, we do have good landlords, but we are unearthing more of that than we have done previously. So the team are very much aware of those situations and will act to stop that. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. I am help with your comments, and I'm sure, as you know, and I'm sure as everybody else is aware, it's a frightening situation for people who've got real reasons to ask for repairs to be done, but are frightened that they will become homeless. So thank you very much for those assurances. And are you able to say a percentage of how much you are able to get success through contacting landlords in getting these repairs done? Is that something that you feel confidence in being able to do, or is that a difficulty?
I couldn't give you an exact figure because it happens so rarely. It is drawn to my attention when those things are going on. And in terms of success, when we are alerted to them, I would say in about 80% of cases that we can step in and do something. I should have added as well that the government is looking, or has said that they will look into repealing the Section 21 no-fault evictions as part of the Renters Reform Bill. We hope they do before the end of Parliament, but that remains to be seen. But if that happens, then that will remove that cause of concern for people. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Sorry. Are we all agreed? Okay, thank you. Thank you. Just for the benefit of Councillor Parfitt-Reid and Councillor Hastie, we have agreed to take the item in public, item 13, unless you specifically wanted to contained within the exempt appendix on item 13, tender cost for the demolition contract. So we are taking it public. Okay, thank you. Item 13, approval to demolish former Royal Mail sorting office buildings and Cantium House, to be introduced by Councillor Parfitt-Reid. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, hopefully this should be pretty straightforward and no need to go into closed session. The purpose of this report is to seek approval to demolish the existing buildings known as the former Royal Mail Sorting Office and Cantium House, and to enter into the demolition contract for these works. Prior approval for the demolition of the buildings was granted at Planning Committee last month. The approval is sought in order to enter into the demolition contract with the preferred tenderer to secure the brownfield land release funding awarded to MBC. The existing tenants occupying the properties have been served notice and are due to vacate the premises towards the end of this month. The application for the wider development of the site is yet to be determined, and the potential risk in approving the preferred option are considered under the risk section of the report. So over to you.
Thank you, Councillor Parfitt-Reid. Councillor Hastie.
Sorry, well, as everything's kind of been discussed at planning and it's pretty much just agreeing to get it done, I'd like to move the recommendation on paper.
I'm happy to second that as well. Thank you.